The moment I realized I was measuring my whole life against someone else's highlight reel, I genuinely felt sick. Not sad, not motivated, just sick. I didn't realize how deep this was running until one night, probably 1 a.m. I was scrolling through Instagram and I landed on this guy's page. Same age as me, traveling, building a business, posting gym progress, looking like he had everything figured out. And I just sat there, in my room, in the dark, feeling like I was losing a race I never signed up for. And the worst part? I didn't even know this guy. Never met him, he wasn't my competition, he wasn't in my industry, he had nothing to do with my actual life. But somehow in that moment, his existence made me feel like I was behind. I used to think comparing yourself was just this harmless thing, like motivation, like it's supposed to push you. But what I've come to understand is that most of the time, it doesn't push you. It just quietly convinces you that where you are right now isn't enough. And once that seed is planted, it's really hard to pull out. So, this isn't me telling you to love yourself or whatever. This is just me sharing what I figured out the hard way about why comparison is way more dangerous than it looks. Here's what no one says out loud. Comparison is never really about the other person. When you look at someone else and feel that sting, that tightness in your chest, you're not actually evaluating them. You're passing a verdict on yourself. The other person is just the mirror. You're the one on trial. Think about it like this. When you walk into the gym and you see someone lifting way more than you don't leave thinking, wow, that guy is amazing. You leave thinking, I'm not good enough yet. The other person didn't do anything to you, your brain just used them as a measuring stick and then measured you against it. That's the trap. We think we're looking outward, but we're actually spiraling inward, and the judgment is almost never fair because you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's final cut. You see their result. You don't see the 3 years of failure before it. We all know social media distorts reality. That's not news. But knowing it doesn't stop us from feeling it. And I think that's the part people skip over too fast. I can know, logically, that someone's lifestyle post is curated, that they took 40 photos to get that one, that the trip was probably half funded by a brand deal. I know all of that. And I still scroll past it at midnight and feel like my life is somehow lacking. The intellectual understanding doesn't protect you from the emotional hit. What I started noticing is that the comparison hit hardest when I was already tired, already stressed, already feeling behind. Like I'd have a rough day, maybe a plan didn't work out, or I felt stuck, and then I'd open my phone almost as a reflex, and suddenly I'm watching someone my age announce their first 10K month, and I just deflate. It's not the social media. It's that I was going to that place when I was already low. That's when it did the most damage. Not when I was confident, when I was already doubting. This is the thing that really got me. Every time I spent mental energy comparing where I was to where someone else was, I wasn't thinking about where I was actually trying to go. And direction is everything. You can be behind someone else and still be moving exactly where you need to be moving. Or you can be ahead by some metric and be completely lost. Imagine you're driving and you keep looking at the car next to you, checking how fast they're going, whether they're ahead, what lane they're in. Meanwhile, you've got your own destination plugged into the GPS that you've completely ignored because you got too busy watching them. That's comparison. You drift, you slow down, you make turns that aren't yours to make. I genuinely caught myself doing this once with my content work. I was posting consistently, building something I actually believed in, and then I stumbled onto someone doing something similar but with way more traction. And without even realizing it, I started tweaking my style towards theirs, changed my tone, changed my format, lost the thing that was actually mine. And the content got worse because I wasn't making it from my perspective anymore. I was making it from a place of chasing. All right, I'm not going to pretend comparison is 100% useless either, because that's not real either. There's one type that actually does something for you, comparing yourself to who you were before. That's it. That's the only version that has useful data because it's the only version where you have full context. You know your starting point, You know what obstacles were yours specifically. You know what improvement actually looks like for you, not for someone with a different background, a different timeline, different resources. Even something small, like realizing that 6 months ago you couldn't hold a conversation about something you now understand deeply, that's real. That's yours. No one else's progress can measure that for you. What I started doing is keeping a kind of informal record of where I was, not for performance, just for perspective. Because the mind forgets, it resets, and when you forget how far you've come, you're left only seeing how far you still have to go, which always looks like not enough. The real turning point for me wasn't some big epiphany. It was actually a pretty quiet moment. I was having a conversation with someone I respect, someone who from the outside looked like they had it all figured out. And halfway through the conversation, they said something like, "Man, I keep seeing what you're building and feeling like I'm behind." And I just stopped because I had been silently thinking the exact same thing about them. We were both sitting there comparing ourselves to each other, feeling inadequate. And both of us were wrong. Neither of us was behind. We were just different, on different paths, with different things we were trying to build. And something clicked in that moment that I couldn't unclick. The comparison wasn't giving either of us accurate information. It was just noise. Painful, distracting noise that made us both smaller than we actually were. That's when I stopped seeing it as I need more discipline to stop comparing and started seeing it as I need to remember that the comparison is giving me bad data. It's not a willpower problem, it's an information problem. Here's where I've landed with all of this. Comparison is like trying to navigate with someone else's map. Even if the map is detailed, even if it's accurate, it's for their terrain, not yours. The roads don't match, the landmarks aren't the same, and the destination is theirs, not yours. You don't need a better version of someone else's map. You need to actually look up and figure out where you're standing. Where you are right now is a real place. It's not a failure position on someone else's timeline. It's just your current coordinate, and it's the only one that matters for figuring out where to go next. The most dangerous thing comparison does isn't make you feel bad. It's make you forget that your direction was already worth following. What's one thing you've stopped comparing, and how did your mindset shift after? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to read these.